This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Welcome back, Ram fans. This is Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are proud members of the Fans First Sports Network. That's fansfirstsports.com. You can also follow us on YouTube. Our channel is at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. You'll hear from my co-host, Tom, on occasion as well. Hey, we're not Rams insiders. We're just longtime fans who love talking about our Los Angeles Rams. Let's get to it. Welcome back, Ram fans, episode 360, and we have another roundtable coming up here for you. Paul Walia, Ian Martinez, and Tom Courts talking a variety of subjects, all Rams-centric. Well, not everything, actually. They're going to talk about championship weekend, the Ravens and the Chiefs, Niners and the Lions. They're going to talk about the Pro Bowl, and they're going to talk about all these Ram coaching vacancies. And be forewarned, as they were recording this, Denard Wilson hired by the Titans as their defensive coordinator, and that's one of the guys Ian and Paul were hoping for. Their hearts were broken while they were recording this, but we left it in there. Let's get to the roundtable right now.
Welcome to another edition of the Rams Up Roundtable. I'm your host, Tom, at Ramsbeat on X, and joined by our regular panelists here, Ian and Paul. How's it going, guys?
Doing good, doing good. Yep, I mean, another week down before the bowl. That's exciting. You know, hey,
That's
football, the end of the 2023 campaign's coming to a close. And gentlemen, we got to start getting our crap together as an organization because 2024 is around the corner. We got a lot of people leaving the building. That's kind of sucks.
I know. Who would have thought in a rebuilding year that we have this mass exodus, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's. I don't know. What was it? Did we ever have a OC and a DC? Have we had an OC and a DC leave in the same year? I'm not sure. I can't remember. But
so let's go through it. O'Connell, the Super Bowl year left. Raheem stayed. We go back the year before Staley left, but O'Connell was still there, so no. Liam Cohen in 2022, Raheem still stayed. I don't think so. I don't think anybody was Greg Olson ever the OC, or was he just a quarterback's coach? I don't remember exactly.
I think he wasn't an OC. So
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Anyway, So who would have thought in our remodel year that we had lose both of our quarterbacks? So let's dive into that real quick here. So let's talk about let's start with OC since he went first, right? Okay, so Zach Robinson, right? He's not exactly one of the most talked about coaches in on the Rams staff, right? Over the years. And so just a little history, been with the Rams 4 years, 3 as an assistant quarterbacks coach, had some responsibilities in the passing game primarily. And then this last year was the primary quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator. Now his history before that, he was obviously a quarterback in the league. And then he went, he coached a little bit, but prior to joining the Rams, he was with PFF, for a little while, and then also did a lot of
PFF, the controversial PFF. Everyone either loves or hates. I know, right?
I think he had a little different role than going and watching a tape and grading players. But
sure, yeah.
But I think Brian Allen should give part of his salary because he never would have got that extension if it wasn't for PFF.
Yeah, but he was also like a private quarterbacks coach, also, and I think his real talent is quarterback prep, right? And so if if in Atlanta they draft somebody instead of trying to trade for somebody, and then he's an ideal candidate for that. Can he play? Can he call plays? I guess that's still up in the air. I just was talking to some Falcons fans and on the spaces, and my take was Raheem knows, and in Raheem we trust. You got to trust that guy to be making the right calls, but we'll see what happens anyway. But the big question is who to replace. Who to step in. On that, is there anybody that we need to step in at that position? Are we good with McVay and LaFleur? I mean, you have any thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Paul. I got to gather my thoughts on this one.
I mean, I think if you look at past the history, right, I think it's all familiarity. So the reason McVay is so comfortable letting assistants walk away is that even when he brings in people from the outside, it's a matter of either him being familiar with them, or them bringing over something that he's familiar with. So I think it's all familiarity. I don't know how much of a loss it's going to be from the Rams' perspective. We've done it every year. It's a reality. Yeah, what I mean? Look, he doesn't really – I think he blocked coaches maybe, twice over the last 3 years that I can recall off the top of my head.
And were those moves like lateral moves, like OC to OC for another team that were in an elevation?
Yeah, I think
O'Connell got blocked because I think some team was trying to snag him for their OC.
Yeah.
I think we blocked that for sure.
And I think the only one that really, I was always things that sort of puzzled me were when the scenario with Thomas Brown, and he never got a gig offer when he was with the Rams. I always thought that was a little weird. In terms of Thomas Brown, I mean, just to touch on him, that's a really good point because he was the OC for the Panthers, right? Mm-hmm. And with that change in
that didn't go well.
Yeah, with that whole change in coaching staff. He's not even an OC anymore. He took a passing game coordinator job at another team, and the Rams.
The Bears.
Yeah, the Bears, right? And the Rams could have. But why didn't the Rams bring him back in that capacity? Maybe he didn't see the. See the career progression. The career career, and I did misspeak. I was saying the Rams lost their OC and DC. Obviously, Mike LaFleur is still the OC. We lost our DC with Raheem, so we did not.
We know what you meant.
I was just. I don't know why I had it in my mind because we lost our. Well, let's just recap. Raheem goes to Atlanta, poaches Zach Robinson. Yeah, poaches Zach Robinson to become his OC, and then turns around and poaches Jimmy Lake, who's the assistant head coach for the Rams, to be the DC.
So he was the old Washington coach too, right, gentlemen? He was
University of Washington.
Yeah.
So the bigger question, of course, is then our DC, right? Because there's probably a lot of good quarterback passing and coordinator coaches out there. So on the DC front, let's just talk about Jimmy Lake for a second. Jimmy Lake, University of Washington, right? And he left that program very controversially. I mean, he got accused of shoving a player and then getting dismissed.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
And then he gets hired with the Rams as the associate head coach. And in a year, remember when McVay was trying to reduce some of his responsibilities. So maybe they felt like he was good administratively, good with both of the staffs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Didn't sound like he had a really big role in either I know he's a defensive guy, but in either the defense or offense. So it sounds like, kind of putting two and two together. It sounds like Raheem took him because he trusts him because he knows Raheem's defense, right?
because he was around it for a whole year.
That's correct,
he knows, and he's good administratively because he's, has the maturity, et cetera. He's not some newbie. So he's been a head coach in college and so forth. So structurally speaking, so he probably just said, "Hey, come on over, Jimmy, and run my defense."
There you go.
Sounds right.
It's familiarity. I mean, that's a huge advantage for, who the individual is from a personality standpoint. You know what they bring with them. How much of it is the X's and O's? Probably not as much as people really realize. So, I mean, when you're building a team, that's a major advantage. I think we were talking about it last week, right, Ian? We were saying, like, look, we have the people that we think, oh, wow, I'd love for them to bring this wrinkle to the passing game. I would love for them to bring this wrinkle to the defensive game plan on a regular basis. Reality is McVay is going to bring somebody that he is familiar with, that he's comfortable with, no surprises. When he's working on something, he knows what's happening in the background, right? That's exactly, what he's probably going to do. And that's why he's comfortable with losing assistants like 2 or 3 at his shot.
It's insane. Right? It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we lose people all the damn time. It's expected now. I mean, the tree is growing, man, and the coaching tree, everybody. It's pretty legit for a coach who's not even 40 years old, right? McVay's still under 40.
Yeah, 38.
Still the youngest coach in the league. Yeah.
Still the third.
Insane,
there's two. Yeah, with McDonald's hiring today in Seattle, he's now the third youngest coach, with Mayo and then McDonald's a little younger. They're all 38. They're all within 6 months. The only difference is Mayo and McDonald have been a head coach for 1 day and then 2 weeks respectively. But McVay's been one who's going into his 8th year. So yeah. If he had it in him, he could break every record in the book. But he doesn't have it in him to go the Belichick, Andy Reid route. I don't think.
I don't think so either. That's okay.
And can I say one thing before we get into the other topics? A shout out to Les Snead. I think Tom and I were talking about this, and we didn't get a chance to delve into it last week. But shout out to Les Snead. He publicly sort of just showered Coach Morris with accolades, right? And I think that really was a big deal. Think about it. What was it? Maybe 3 days after it happened, Morris got the sort of unofficial in the media that he was going to get hired, and then a day later it was official. So shout out to Les Snead. Yeah. So shout out to Les Snead for doing that. That's exactly how you do it, man. You let people know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
And shout out to those compensation picks. Thanks, NFL system. We'll take those too.
Yeah, we get two end of the third round picks, one this year and one next year. So, but let's talk about the biggest hole to fill, right? Is that DC position, and so who steps in for Raheem into that position? So since we talked about this last week, different people jumping in, right? So we had the biggest one is, like we just talked about, McDonald going to Seattle. So that means was it
Ravens
Denard?
DC?
Yeah, Ravens DC.
And yes, I did bring up Denard Wilson as a possibility.
Yeah, Denard Wilson
coach from the Ravens. It feels like, we started to chat offline here a little bit about it, and it seems like Ravens will elevate them because they're the opposite of the Rams. They elevate their guys. The bigger roles. Rams don't. Ravens do. Harbaugh likes that. That's cool. And if he doesn't get elevated, then he's probably going to jump to DC with Seattle with McDonald, right? Doesn't it feel that way, gentlemen? I don't know if it feels that way to me. Oh, that was my guy who I wanted. That's probably not going to happen now unless the pay's better than those two spots with McDonald, Seattle, Ravens, Harbaugh. So my guy's probably out of it, but there's still hope.
I don't know. We'll see.
You never know. He's a great fit. He got a lot of play. I mean, I think we all felt like he would be a great candidate. The bottom line is just,
I think so too.
The track record of not so much him, but of the Rams points in a totally different direction, right? And like we had talked about Weaver, we had talked about Wilson, and we had who was the third? I think somebody had brought up a third person. The guy from Tennessee, Bowen, I had brought up. So there's always great candidates every year, but the reality is, I honestly, I think going back to my whole familiarity standpoint, I think it's eventually going to be Staley again. But I think Denard is definitely, yeah. I think Denard is still in the running, though. I really do.
Yeah, Denard. Yeah, Wilson. So Ian, you think it's going to be Staley?
Dude, something else we were chatting a little before we jumped on air here. The more and more I sat on it, let Paul's words of wisdom just seep into my brain after last pod we got together. It just makes the most sense. Why? Couple things. And I thought about it a ton. Number one, let's just be real. Staley would love to have this gig back. He lives in LA already. His family has been ushered in this area since 2020. The kids and the wife don't want to leave. That's a tough gig everyone forgets about. Let's just be real. Families got to bolt and be ready to bolt on a year-to-year basis, sometimes even faster than that if things go south. Coaches, players, everybody. Front office people. That's just the sour side of the NFL business of making millions of dollars, but that's a part of it. So I'm sure he would be happy to stay in the LA area. Doesn't have to move. Maybe just drive an extra 30 minutes to the facility, wherever his new place is after being head coach. Makes sense in the life aspect. I think even the football aspect, it makes sense because, guys, I re-listened to some of the episodes of Jordan Rodriguez, the Rams athletic reporter, writer, who does great stuff, the 11 Personnel podcast as well. And she did that cinematic storytelling podcast about offense and the young play callers called The Play Callers. And in one of the episodes I was listening back to was how insanely explosive, you could say, the practices were in 2020 between Staley's defense, which ended up being number one in the whole NFL, versus McVay's offense, and which started the seeds of Goff getting kicked out of the Rams, basically because he couldn't do crap in practice. But Staley's defensive practices were so hardcore based on Jordan's reports, based on McVay's reports. And I say hardcore in like a good way, like, wow, it was fantastic, which, hey, ushered in a number one defense. So I think those things combined, we know how McVay loves to almost fantasize about any of that type of stuff, which is why he loves the Fangio system, which is another reason why he loves Belichick, 3-4 style defense. I just think it's going to happen for all those reasons. Paul, from last week, that re-listening about how McVay was so enamored about practices against him every day, the life stuff with Staley probably wanting to stay in LA, all that to say it's probably going to happen. And I think he interviewed today. He might interview again tomorrow. I'm not exactly 100% on that. Packers already hired a new DC. Other guys are filling in those spots. It just makes sense. And I know I talked crap last week a little bit, and we can re-listen to that. I will not back away from all that, but I feel like he's probably going to get rehired, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Staley, McVay was, the whole story, to summarize is that the Super Bowl year, or the first Super Bowl in 2018, that season, they played the Bears when Fangio was the DC, couldn't do anything against the Bears, got shut down, went to the Super Bowl, blew through everybody, high-powered offense. And then Belichick studied that tape, implemented that game plan, and then also, not only implemented that kind of too high shell light box situation on Goff, but also didn't even show it until after McVay got out of his ear, and then made Goff figure it out, and was just moving people around. And so the sort of the tag team, the whole thing, and we know what that led to, 3 points. So so that's when McVay fell in love with that defense. But now we fast forward 2024, a lot of the league is running variations of that defense, and the league is starting to catch up with it. The offensive coordinators have, essentially caught up with it to some degree. So, thank God Raheem was able to put his spin on it and started blitzing more and doing other things. But, I just don't know if Staley, he brought something to the team because he was the first guy off the Fangio tree. He knew that defense as well as anybody, and he loved it. That's why he was brought in. But now, fast forward 6 years, I don't know if he's still the guy. Like he obviously didn't show in San Diego that he could adjust to the new offenses, right? I mean, he didn't, and it wasn't like he had a piss poor cast of characters out there. I mean, he had a lot more talent than the Rams did. Paul, what are your thoughts on that?
So the one thing, I think, going to Ian's argument, and the guys that I had named and Ian had named in terms of assistants we wanted coming over to take the defense. The theme was a more attacking, aggressive defense, right? As much as I love that whole cover 6 setup. I love that quarter setup that you see a lot of teams running, right? What I watched before he retired, I thought Saban 7 was awesome. When you catch an Alabama game, right? But that's us, because we love that as fans and guys who love the X's and O's and things like that. Mm-hmm. The one thing only against the Staley hiring is this: the way it happened. And if you think back to when we were talking about going back a couple of seasons when Staley was here, is that and this is just my personal thing. I hate it when assistants interview during the playoffs. I think it's such a bad practice in the NFL. And if you remember, a lot of Ram players were pissed off because I think it happened like the week of what was the game against Seattle? I think it was, right? And there was like that one shot of the sideline where they were like, I think it was Aaron Donald walked away from him. Like there was something going on, I guess a coaching moment, and he walked away from him. I think there was a lot of really pissed off players because I think they did. I think they genuinely did like him. They did love the defensive setup, but I think that will stop anyone? Probably not. But I think that's why the Rams have that philosophy of letting so many assistants walk away. And almost to Tom's point, a couple of weeks ago, he was talking about the CEO head coaches. What's the shelf life of an assistant that brings over something like, earth-shattering in the NFL, right? How long is that system, right, going to be like, right? We saw it with the Eagles, right? How long is it going to be like, oh, wow, right? Maybe 2 or 3 seasons, other teams catch on, right? People get hired for other things. So you have about a 2-year window anyway, 3-year window anyway with a great assistant. So I think that's where maybe the Rams organization sort of may have hit on something. It's like, listen, we're not going to put all our eggs in one basket anyway. They're going to bring over a wrinkle. That wrinkle is going to be relevant for about 2 or 3 seasons. We'll integrate it, maybe adopt part of it, and then we'll either move on, bring in a fresh perspective. Like that term always gets thrown around. We'll bring in a fresh perspective of things, and then we'll move forward from there. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I think that's the thing with Staley is the positive is that you come in, you know what you're getting, you know what he's going to do, you know what he's going to run. These defensive assistants and offensive minds are so bright and so far ahead of anything that we are possibly contemplating. If they have to integrate something or add something or adopt something to their regular mindset, they can. Not an issue, right? The only thing that's always sort of bothered me about the Rams D is that their best player is really like, we know AD is really cut out for what? 5 technique and a 4-3 setup, right? Playing a little bit more even fronts, right? Really cut them loose. That's
he could do everything. He could do everything, dude. Exactly. I mean, we saw him Greg Williams 4-3.
Yeah.
3-4. I mean, he could do whatever, Paul. Let's just be real.
Yeah. And you saw that with Raheem Morris, that on a lot of passes. Now that's what they did. They went to an even front. They were like, multiple D-backs. So that situational aspect of it sort of evens everything out. But it's the familiarity that's going to help. Maybe that's what McVay is looking for. Listen, if it doesn't happen by Friday, it's not going to be Staley. If it doesn't happen by Friday, it's not going to be Staley. Then we know probably Denard Wilson or maybe somebody else, or maybe they go off the radar, right? But there are a lot of benefits to having Staley back there. It really is.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Pros and cons for sure. It's going to, put it this way, there's going to be a lot more Rams fans who aren't happy about it than who are happy about it.
Yeah.
That much after this.
It's
after
true.
that
And real
mess.
quick, I just want to say this quick and fast, because I know, shout out to everybody listening that tunes in to the pod. We have people that write in to our other host, Mark, and it's pretty dang cool, man. We appreciate the heck out of all those that tune in. And Mason brought up a good point of Khalil Mack possibly being somebody, a cap casualty, a trade for because of Harbaugh coming in. Now, Harbaugh runs a 3-4-2. He likes that style of defense. When he had Fangio back in his Niner run, and even at Michigan and his other spots, or even at Stanford, Fangio was with them too. He likes that 3-4 style. So is it likely he's to keep him? Maybe, but I didn't realize how insane Khalil Mack's cap number is. It's almost
Ridiculous.
40 million. It's almost 40 million.
Yeah.
I mean, are they going to, and he's the highest cap player on their roster, more than Joey Bosa, more than the quarterback, more than the receivers, more than Derwin James. And like,
Derwin James' cap number. What's his cap number? Is bananas.
I mean, his is like 20 mil. It's not 38 million like Khalil, which is insane.
But still, for a safety that they were saying was going to be an all-pro safety,
yeah.
If you look at his production, nowhere near even close to what
it's definitely not. But Khalil, at least the dude he's still a hell of a player. I mean, third in the league in sacks this past year with 17 still. He was top 4 in edge defender total tackles. I mean, he was, fourth in tackles for loss. The dude is still a baller and is still a Pro Bowl level player. Now, is Harbaugh going to keep him for that cap number? I don't think so, guys. I really don't think so. And if they cut him, they're going to save about 15 to 24 million, depending on when they do it in that cap, which is a big, big deal, especially for year one for a coach who wants to win immediately. So I think if Staley rejoins, Khalil's going to be getting that dead money from the Chargers, or those paychecks, I should say. I'd be in favor of a Khalil Mack, $10 million 1-year deal. And let's see what happens if teamed up with Aaron Donald. Because we tried to get him in 2018. This is known fact, everybody. We tried to offer more first-round picks in the future in that 2018 season to get Khalil, but the Raiders weren't biting on it. And then he ends up getting sent to the Bears, right? That's what ends up happening. Yeah. But we tried. He's still a hell of an edge rusher. And we talk about Daniil Hunter for 10, 12 million, right? We talk about other guys.
That's my guy.
Obviously, Brian Burns and Josh Allen are my top two, and hopefully their organizations are stupid and don't franchise them or don't try to sign them long term, so we could get either of those guys. But if Khalil's a cap casualty, which is really, really possible for an almost $40 million cap charge for an edge rusher, crazy. I think it's very possible. I just want to share that, and shout out to Mason for bringing that up to Mark and all of us writing into the pod, because I'm in favor of that. Don't even trade any draft capital for what? Let's just wait for them to cut him, which is more than likely, and we can sign him for that 10, 12 for a 1 year. Let's go hunt the quarterback with Aaron Donald. Oh, I'm in.
Well, okay,
championships are built on the bad moves of other teams, right? Look at what Detroit did with Stafford. Right? Think about that. Mm-hmm. So, the Jalen Ramsey deal. So, and all the draft moves, right? Picking up some of the draft picks. So, the championship teams are built on the bad moves of other teams, right? Yeah. The Patriots used to do a great job of that. They're like, wait a minute, somebody's going to get cut that doesn't need to get cut, right? And we're going to be able to scoop them right up. The Bosa trade talk is also building steam, right? And in the beginning, everybody thought it was just lip service, but there are a lot of people saying that it's legit. And Ram Nation also, shout out to Ram Nation, great job with not only your insights and sharing your comments, but keep in mind, coming out of the draft, Chris Jenkins, right, the linchpin of that 3-4 Michigan defense, that might be reunited with Harbaugh, right, out there in San Diego. That would be a nice fit. But go ahead, Tom. I know you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to talk about Khalil real quick. I mean, he would take on like a $39-40 million cap hit if they kept him with the Chargers. But if they cut him,
so much.
then if they cut him, you're right. Then it's 18 to 20 million dead cap. But the key is that the rest of that, it's like $24 million is what he would make by staying, right? $23 million actually. So in addition, with roster bonus and salary. So what the Chargers would want to do is they would want to not cut him outright. What they would want to do is trade him and then see how much, even if they didn't get anything, maybe it's some stupid pick swap, which the Rams are really good at doing, a fifth for a fourth or a sixth for a fifth or something like that. At least they can say they won the trade. And then see how much the Rams, of that 23 million, the Rams are willing to take on. So question to you guys, for example, let's say the Rams said, you know what, it's a 1 year rental. He's going to be a free agent in 2025. We're willing to pay him $15 million for 1 year, but we're not going to, we'll do a six for a fifth pick swap, next to nothing in draft capital. Right.
That's cool with me.
So then, yeah. So the question for you guys is, how much is he worth, assuming there's no draft picks involved or something nominal? How much is he worth for a 1 year rental?
Well, what did I say? I said that 10 to 12 region, but I say that 12 million, 10 to 12 million dollar range because what would the Chargers be paying him for the trade and or cut, right? I mean the cut, I should say. Because we're assuming, is that the scenario we're talking about, Tom?
Well, no. What we're saying, if they cut him, they're on the hook for 18.
Oh, you said the trade. That's correct.
Yeah, that's dead cap. And if they're so what they'll want to do is they'll want to they could and all the alternative is to try and trade him and get some draft capital, right? So the more. And then, as we know, with what happened with Von Miller, there's some cash and some draft picks involved. There can be some combination. But at the end of the day, if we're just saying, hey, look, you can pick up, you could even just say the scenario where you're bidding against other teams because he got cut. How much is Khalil Mack for 1 year on the edge for the Rams this year?
I think. There are two players in that same scenario. When we talk, actually, if you want to include both in that conversation, if they're really going to shop him, we'll see. I don't think they would ever trade him to the Rams, but if you're going to look at Khalil Mack seriously, right? And shout out to Mason for bringing that up, but there's also then you got to look at, and I don't even know if it's possible. I never thought it would be possible for Stafford to get dealt to the Rams, and that happened. Is that Allen in Jacksonville? Both Ian and I think honestly, if you're going to go that route, like you go with Mack, then you might as well try and wedge Allen out as well, right? Because he is the one that would literally turn this defense just completely around, right? And put it in a totally different dimension, right? Yeah. So how much would it be worth? Max, if you look at Max statistical progression, he got better every year, including this past season.
He's still good, man.
He's just a great, and the issue is that he can fit on the strong side. That's the issue. Why I think, Mason and Ian's point makes sense is that he fits on the strong side. Not every rusher you bring in can play on the strong side. Shout out to Leonard Floyd, man, and for the work that he used to do on the strong side, right? For the strong side for the reason, right? You got to not only do you got to come after the passer, you got to shut down the run, right?
Yeah.
So I think Mack, the number would have to make sense because they finally freed up a lot of cap money. The Rams did, and you don't want to blow it off just on one player. But there are guys like 1A would be Allen, maybe a 1B would be Mack. We know Danielle Hunter will fit because he's going to be a pure free agent anyway, right? So, I mean, there are three really good possibilities. I have, maybe two others in my head that I think would make sense for the Rams. But I wouldn't be opposed to 16 mil if they had to, right? I think it would make sense for the Rams. Yeah, a strong side rusher who does produce sacks. The guys produce sacks. He had double-digit sacks this year on a really
17. He was tied for third in the entire league. On
a really bad defense. a really bad
Yeah.
defense.
And those were offenses that were ahead most of those games.
Right?
Yeah, and they were running the ball a lot. So yeah, no, I'm with you. You got Bosa in there, but some of the time when he was healthy.
Yeah, I mean, what I said 10 to 12. I mean, 15 million is probably the most I would be willing to eat or pay him. Let's just be real. We still got to spend money on other spots. Got to retain Dotson, right? There's some money to be spent.
Secondary.
You know, yes, Jesus. So I mean, look if Brian Burns doesn't sign with us, which is a very high chance. Let's keep it real. There should be a mutual interest, age, production. We tried trading 2 firsts for him a season and a half ago. Crazy.
Right.
And so that Josh Allen of the Jaguars are stupid. Danielle Hunter, I wouldn't be opposed. But Khalil, man, he's someone we also tried to trade for because once upon a time, not too long ago. So it's not like this is some shot out of the cannon conspiracy we're trying to make up, us and Mason, our viewer. There's some truth. Sean likes him, gave the okay, right? Les Snead and Tony Pastores in the front office gave the okay for that trade to happen once upon a time, and he hasn't played any worse since 18. I mean, we'll see. But 15 million is my magic number, the most. But
and remember, if Staley gets hired, I just underline
even more
familiarity.
Yep.
Familiarity is the name of the game. You know what you're getting. You know how to use them. You know the ins and outs.
Yeah,
that's a real viable option.
Yeah. So, well, good stuff. And let's talk about these championship games that have been played since we last got together. So let's start with the first game of the day last Sunday. The Ravens hosting the Chiefs. I mean, Paul, did the Ravens just implode?
I don't even listen. Shout out to Baltimore and their fan base. A great season all around. Honestly, I mean, there's no mystery here, right? Everyone who listens to our pod knows that I love defense. I love running the football. I love the physicality of it. I love Lamar, man. Action Jackson is the man. I don't know what they were thinking and why they did not run the ball in that game. I honestly, I couldn't even believe the stat line after the game. I said, did I miss something? And I pulled up the stat.
Was it eight rushes
for the game?
Back? Yeah, for running back.
It was
pathetic.
Yeah,
pathetic. Honestly.
So, and even the defensive game plan was, to me, a bit odd, right? Listen, any team, and listen, obviously it's a lot easier to sit here and watch the game and say afterwards, et cetera, et cetera. But, I mean, when are teams going to learn? You cannot let Mahomes sit back there and think that you're going to, wait for him to make a mistake. That's just a silly game plan. That's just not going to work. You got to go after him. You've got to take your chances. You got to say, all right, beat us with Pacheco. Shout out to Rutgers, right? But you got to say, beat us with your running game. And okay, if that's what it's going to be, let's go mano a mano. But that was just a silly game plan on both sides of the ball. They didn't play to their strengths. I don't get it. And
one of the an extra guy on Kelsey too. I mean,
and one of the reasons I thought it was going to be a high scoring game was going to be that each team was going to be so I don't want to say the word anxious, but uncomfortable. Like after a team would score, the other team was just going to go after it, right? That's why I thought there were going to be a lot of points. Like they would go after that knockout punch every chance they had, and just didn't. I don't know. It was like they were lifeless in the second half. It just seemed like they were confused in terms of what they were doing.
It seemed to me like the offensive game plan,
terrible plan
for the Ravens was, we're going to prove to you that Lamar, in his second MVP season, and let's face it, he's going to win the MVP for regular season, right? But they're basically saying, we're going to prove to you that he's a pocket quarterback, and we don't rely on the run. We don't rely on quarterback runs. We don't rely on running back running. We just, he's going to eat you guys up. And I mean, they're going against one of the best secondaries in the NFL. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed's a real guy, and we should talk about him at some point.
Yep, we brought his name up for possible guys, and as we get closer to free agency,
Duffy is a beast, and I mean they got studs back there, and you're going to go back there and so Lamar's throwing, overthrowing everybody all day long. It was just crazy.
Golly, man.
Yeah, it was tough. It was hard to watch. And then watching Zay Flowers doing the trifecta of taunting, spin the ball in his head, hover over him, and then taunt him at the same time.
It's just, and that fumble before the goal line.
Oh, speaking of Snead making a play.
Just painful.
Yeah.
I mean, look at I just to tie this all in. I know it's a Ram spot, everybody listening. It just shows you, and we did the same damn thing for whatever reason. And we'll talk about the Lions game too coming up. But the teams, us, Ravens, and the Lions, when things got a little messy, abandoned the run and just went, let's just throw it all over the yard. Yes, Jared Goff can sling it. Yes, Matthew Stafford could sling it. Yes, we've seen Lamar sling it. And obviously Stafford probably had the best day throwing the football out of those three guys. But how did you get to this point? How did you get into the tournament? How did you advance to the tournament if you're the Ravens or Lions? It's because of running the damn football. And guys, 6 carries for Justice Hill and Gus Edwards combined in the entire game. Pathetic. And those dudes were running hard, angry, and with what's what I want to say, just integrity to beat up on the opposing defense, if that makes sense. And for them to not get any chances, insane. I can't believe it.
Did anybody stop the Ravens running game all freaking year? No.
I don't think so. Yeah.
What game plan did you come up with? I want to know from Raven fans. Send us a pic of what was on that chalkboard that was so amazing that they abandoned what they had done all year and no one could stop.
It's crazy, dude.
Not to mention in the playoffs, what do? That's when you unleash your quarterback, the biggest dual threat quarterback in the league by far. And the quarterback runs as well. You can unleash those as well. So
they would have played.
And to your point about that, and to your point about that, gentleman, about the quarterback, I looked a little at not the whole game's film like I would do for Rams. I've had other obligations and work and stuff, but I watched a good amount, and Lamar just played awful. There's just no way to say it. He didn't read the field the greatest, and to the point of the run game, dude had gazillion chances to take off and get 7, 8, 10, 15, even sometimes during the game, I thought, man, if you would have bolted at this angle, he probably outruns everybody. And he didn't run at all. And it speaks to your earlier point as well, Tom, about either Lamar himself or Monken, the offensive coordinator, and Harbaugh. They wanted Lamar to be the gunslinger to win it in this style, playing the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid and the Mahomes combo.
Yeah.
It didn't work. He couldn't handle it. And for the run game, Lamar, his decisions, and then obviously the decisions not to feed the running backs, it was just awful. And they deserve to lose because of that. It's crazy. Lamar did not save us like I was hoping and I said last week, right? Lamar saved us from another Chiefs bowl, and they wet the bed on offense. But I will say, shout out to their defense. Shout out to McDonald and Denard Wilson, our once upon a time hopefuls for DC. They got their unit to play really great defensive football the second half, which should have been plenty to win that game. But the offense and Lamar in the run game was just dreadful, and they took that L, man. Devastating for them. This was their year to make a bowl, right? The AFC's weak. Quarterbacks are hurt. No Burrow, no Watson, no Rodgers. Josh Allen got taken out already. So, oh, man. I feel for you, B. Moore out there. I feel for the city out there. Tough.
And Ravens D did work all year because they won the Triple Crown on defense.
Yeah, they did. They did.
That was their time to get the ball.
Shout out to them.
Before we pivot to the NFC game, quick update on Tom's bank account. If you listen to last week's pod, I had my 2 bets back in July were the field I took the field, and the guy I betted took the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl. Lost that one. The other bet I made, which gets a different guy, was I took the field, and the other guy took the Niners to go to the Super Bowl. Wow. So I just lost 30. I had 30 teams. They had 2, and pain. But it is what it is.
You win some, you lose some, my friend. I mean, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, that was nasty. Did not count on that. But so let's shift over to the NFC Championship game, right? So here comes the Lions out to this huge 17-point lead, and then in steps the CEO head coach to put his stamp on things. Right? He's not good enough just to watch his team win. He has to be a part of it. And you guys know how I feel about that. I got off on that last time. Anyway, so you guys, what were your thoughts on his decisions to continually go for it?
Well, real quick. Speaking of the run games and all that, what did I say last week, gentlemen? I said the Lions have a chance because how do you beat the 49ers? And how have any teams beaten them and since Shanahan has taken over and they've built a good roster, right? Obviously the early years they were still building the team out. But since they've had a legit roster, you have to match their smash mouth old school style. You have to. And that's how you stay competitive and or beat them. Think about, the NFC Championship where we beat them to advance to the bowl and win it. We had to match their physicality, which we had not done up until that point, and which we also haven't done much since, right? Unfortunately. And that's how you beat them. What did the Lions do? And what did I say? If they run the football and establish that, hey, we're going to be the dominant force in the trenches today, they have a great chance. And it was looking that way for a whole half. Crazy. Mm-hmm. The O-line was dominating Armstead. Dominating Hargrave. Both had a couple sacks, but he was ineffective in the run game. Fred Warner and Greenlaw were getting moved a ton in the run game. It was working. Montgomery, Gibbs, Thunder and Lightning personified, probably the easily the best running back duo in the league, in my opinion, just being objective about it. It was working. And like Goff play action, hit the receivers, tight ends. It was going great. And then to Tom and the main point of this all, you just got to take the damn points when they're there in a championship game.
Exactly.
And I've seen the debates on the Twitter universe, the Instagram universe, and all over internet, right? About, hey, what did you do to get there? Why change now? Guys, they've never played in the Super Bowl, the Lions franchise. You got to change a little bit to get there, don't you think? That's how I feel. And when you're up that much, where you have a chance to be ahead by 17 plus points against a team who is never, ever good at coming back from those deficits. Because what was it, guys? The round 2 divisional round against the Packers was Kyle Shanahan's 49ers first time ever coming back, being down, going into the fourth quarter ever in their run. It was like they were like 0-31 or something like that. Like, I can't believe it. I just cannot believe how the Lions blew it and how they just didn't take the points that were there to keep extending their lead against a team that can't come back. Incredible. And obviously we can get into the other plays that happened, but I just can't believe it, man. Freaking Lions.
It was hard to watch for sure. It was obviously rooting for the Lions, but anyway, hey, we're going to end it there. Good stuff, you guys. Good 45-minute pod here. We keep things a little shorter here in the off season, and we will let's shoot back next week. We should have a DC hopefully by then. I don't know, and I mean, cool. At least somebody, we'll know who it's going to be. If they haven't hired anybody, then it's likely going to be somebody from the Ravens, and we'll also know some of the other how some of the other cards fell in that realm. So yeah, we'll check in on that. Maybe do a Super Bowl preview. Maybe look at your props. We'll get some good Super Bowl props for the audience and see what we got.
Tom will wear his Taylor Swift T-shirt.
Yeah, right. I'll tell you what, I am all in.
Wait, you're gonna wear Taylor Swift's boyfriend's shirt, right? Nobody knows who Kelsey is all of a sudden, right?
I wouldn't wear Mahomes or something, but I can't go. No, I can't do Kelsey, and I don't have anything against Taylor Swift, but never liked Chelsea. But yeah, I'm definitely all in on the Chiefs here. Anybody playing the Niners, I'm all in.
Yeah. Rams Nation. Let's just be real. There were some people that were pissy in our fan base against each other, including myself and others, about how can you be choosing the Lions? They were dirty against us. The enemy of my enemy was my friend on Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not choosing the 49ers ever. Let's just be real about it.
No way. Doesn't
and
matter.
I'm not going to change in a couple weeks or a week and a half or so for Super Bowl Sunday. I'd rather see a birth of a new dynasty and be annoyed with the Swiftie nonsense than see the 49ers host Lombardi. Let's just keep it real, everybody.
We don't need that stuff in the NFC.
I'll see the Mahomes dynasty be officially born than I'd rather see that than see the 49ers host the Lombardi. So let's everyone just chill out. It'll be annoying, but Rams Nation, you know who we got to roll with on Sunday in a couple weeks. Come on, let's be real.
Good stuff, you guys. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Have a great week. We'll catch up with you guys next week. This is the Rams Up Podcast Roundtable Edition. I'm your host, Tom, at Ramsbeat on Twitter, with Ian and Paul as always. And we'll catch you guys next week.
All right, double bow,
Yes,
Ram. Rutgers pride.
Yeah, Rams up. And what did we learn this week? Just run the damn football.
On the rock, baby.
Jesus.
That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.